Namaste, viewers. Welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA for a very special conversation today. To begin with, let me greet and wish every Bharatiya happy Independence Day. Vande Mataram, Jai Ho. It is 75th. Prime Minister gave a remarkable speech at Lal Killa, and as always, he always makes profound speeches. In his address to the country today, he made a mention of Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Vikas, or Sabki, what is called effort as well, prayas. So now that is the fourth Sabka has come in. Very important. But today we will focus on a very important book, text, literature of Hindu history. That's called Mahabharat. And I have great pleasure in welcoming Ami Ganatra ji. Ami ji, welcome to the show. And a brief introduction of Ami ji is that she is a graduate of Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and has written a remarkable book, Mahabharat Unravelled, lesser known facts about a well-known history. Ami ji, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Console, please bring her up on the screen with me. So, Amiji, I wanted to discuss this book in several understanding of the subject matter, because what I find is every Indian knows every story of our literature, but our literature, our history is so rich. There is so much full of knowledge. And it's not a book that one reads. Our history, our literature, our lifestyle is a combination of many books, many texts. So the question arises is that I want to talk to you about this in three perspectives. One is, you have stated that Mahabharat is itihas. Now, tell us something more about that. Why Mahabharat we call itihas? And we will come to the second topic as we prep the audience as well, is that second one is very important as well, because I have learned one thing is that what lessons we derive from our text. Is it contextually relevant in today's times, the turbulence, the commotion? So lessons dealing with the entire thing in the contemporary world, with Dharma Sankat, and dilemmas. Who doesn't face these scenarios? We all face challenges every day. How do we overcome that? And finally, the third element that I wanted to talk to you about was that importance for us to read, understand, and know what our original text is. Because that's the important part where the narrative building happens. And I am a believer in the concept that since we do not know our own narrative is told by others. Fact is besmirched as fiction or manipulated as fiction. So for us to understand our own story, we have to understand our own text. And I will take one more step forward. Instead of reading, we have to study. So go ahead. I wanted you to mention and talk about that. Why is it itihas? What is the significance of the word iti for us?
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Vibhuti. Namaste to everybody. Swatantrata Dinasya Harda Shubhashaya to all Indians and every friend of India that we have here watching the show today. It's my immense pleasure to be here with you, Vibhuti ji, and on the Jaipur Dialogues platform. So thank you for having me and for discussing this book, which is my first book, Mahabharata Unravelled. So the 3 points that you mentioned, Vibhuti ji, are exactly why I started writing the book. One, why is it that we have so many texts, right? So many shastras. But why is it that only Ramayana and Mahabharata are called itihas? Yeah. We have Ved, we have so many Dharma Shastras, we have Purans, everything. And all of the texts have some learnings to give. Then what is the artha? What is the need for an itihas? And what is an itihas? That is one. The second, as you said, what are the learnings? Because one of the key things of all our Shastras is to impart learnings. Why what are the learnings we get from Mahabharata, and lastly, Ona narrative. Exactly the 3 points which you mentioned. Coming to Itihas. So, in our entire Indic knowledge system, in our Shastras, we have Shruti Shastra, we have Smriti Shastra. In the Smriti Shastra, we have Puran, we have Dharma Shastra, we have all the darshan that fall under how do we look at study Ved and all that, right? And we have Itihas. So, whatever anybody else says, our rishis have called Mahabharat Ramayana as Itihas. Itihas, as the word itself means itihasa, so it was, does it happen? So it talks about something that happened in the past. But a lot of people call it mythology. Why
Exactly.
do they call it mythology? Because they say, oh, it has too much magical stuff. It has too much mythical stuff. It can't be. It's all false. These are all imaginary stories. Yeah. Now here's the thing. Our Itihas was written many centuries ago. And the way Itihas is written is actually different from the way we are used to understanding history. Our understanding is that history has to be date wise, it has to be chronicle. That's it. Ye hua, ye hua, ye hua, ye time pe hua, this time pe hua, this time pe hua. But that is not how our rishis wrote Itihas. And I say this in every talk that I've had till now. How did they define Itihas? It says, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Mokshana, Upadesham Samanvitam, Purva Vruttam, Katha Yuktam, Itihasam Prachakshate. Purva Vruttam, something that happened in the past. Now, this has to be underlined. It talks about something that happened in the past. It is an incident, an event of the past, but narrated in a Katha format, Katha Yuktam. So that is why it has some of these elements which we think are mythical or whatever, magical or mystical or whatever. But the reason they were put in is to be able to propagate it properly. It was all oral propagation at that time. So to propagate it properly and to ensure that people understood it, they got the imagery and all of that properly. They derived the right message out of it. Yeah. So Purva Vruttam Katha Yuktam. But it doesn't only end at chronicling what happened in the past. The main purpose is Upadesham Samanvitam. It is filled with Upadesh, it is filled with learnings that we take, with lessons that we have to take about Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, the 4 Purushartha. Basically, how do we lead a fruitful life? The lessons for leading a fruitful life. This is what Itihas is. Yeah. And hence, Mahabharat is an Itihas. Now, just extending it further. Wisdom lessons we get from Ved also, we get from Dharma Shastras also, then why Itihas? Again, Vibhuti ji, you spoke about management. So we know that in management, we learn a lot of theory. And then to really understand it, we have something called as case studies. So where I did my management from, we had all case study methods. And that was the best part because you actually saw the implementation of those theory that we've studied, right? So Itihas, in a way, is that how do you actually implement and live that wisdom that our ancestors have spoken about? It is for us to see with the benefit of hindsight that what led to what outcome, what led to the eventual fall or growth of the person or the samaj or the society or whatever. So it gives us the benefit of hindsight in understanding how the wisdom works and how we can learn from it. Yeah. So that is the very important point of having Itihas, the way it is narrated in our by our rishis. I'll make one more point here. But does it mean that they were not chronicling information? No. So that is also not correct. We were chronicling information also. For example, both in Ramayana and Mahabharata, we have entire list of the Vansha, entire lineage. In Mahabharata, we have like a lineage list of about 50-60 kings of ancestors of Kurus and Pandavas. Yeah. In Ramayana also we have that. In Ramayana we have about 35 ancestors of Ram given. So that is also there. They had to chronicle that as well. There is so much documentation of the geography of Bharatvarsha. North, south, east, west. You see a lot of intermingling happening. There are people getting married from north to south. There are Duryodhan's queen was from Kaling. Malayadhwaj, who was a Pandya king, right from south, he participated in the war on the side of the Pandavas. So all this is there. Now, linking it to the third point, many times people say that, oh, Mahabharata is only story, but related to the north, nothing to do with south. Yeah. So that is also not true. That understanding of the civilizational unity was there since that time. So it is not a new entity. Like today we call Swatantrata Divas, but a lot of people say Happy Birthday India. I say no, it's not Happy Birthday. Bharat was always there. We just became free. We became free from the slavery of so many years, if we can even say that. Yeah. So that is it. That why Mahabharat, I believe, is itihas and not just a mythological story, and the importance of Mahabharat in our lives.
You are so right. And, the whole entire Hindu literature has been branded as myth. That is one of the most important things for us all to know, that that was not a myth. It was as it happened, and it has a chronology to it. And you have given the entire vanshaj of the entire Mahabharat in your book very beautifully. And there is one thing which I want to touch upon. This is a subject matter which I think many people, including you and I, can talk for hours, but we will have to restrict it to the time frame that we are here today. And I would look forward to having many more conversation on this subject matter, primarily because there are many instances that need to be talked about. And what must not happen is that this is a classic example of little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So when I was reading your book, and I to the viewers, I want to say that I read the whole book. So I know about the books, Unraveled to me as well, in the sense that you have put the chronology of entire Mahabharata in 6 pages. And I was reading through them, and I realized that's all that people know. So the entire Mahabharata can be written in 6 pages in so many bullet points, and that's the story which everybody seemingly knows. But what is important here is to wave that civilizational connect, that we were more than that. And that's what is critically relevant for us to understand. So let's talk about one more thing. And that is one thing which I found reading these texts was that no character has been ever assassinated in the book. No person has been, looked down upon in the book. What I found was that the characters have been explained, whether it is Shakuni, whether it's Dronacharya, Bhishma Pitama. This literature, this event is so wonderful that the text says that you bear the consequences of your decisions and actions. That was a big takeaway for me. Whether you do something or you don't, as in the management jargon we say, the cost of not doing something or the price you pay for doing something. That's what is important for us to understand from these texts, that what is the cost that we incur for our decision making and our conclusions that we come to. So talk to us about that. Our decision, our declarations, or our dilemmas. How do we address that? Any particular incident that stands out to you?
Um, Thank you for asking this question, Vibhuti ji. So, Mahabharat, uh, throughout in the text, they use the word dharma. The yuddha is also dharma yuddha. We don't call the world war dharma yuddha. Yeah?
And I'm
But
glad you said that, they use the word dharma, because the word dharma has been so beaten up that majority of the people don't even understand what dharma means, right? I understand. You understand. Let's share that with dharma. What does it actually mean? Please go
so
ahead.
the first chapter, so before even I start the book, the first chapter I have put what is dharma, because unless we understand the concept of dharma, we will keep going into this thing of array they broke the rules so they are not good, array history is written by victors so they are not good. Yeah, so to understand Mahabharat and to understand our own challenges in life, the view or the understanding of dharma is important. Now, dharma, people would call it religion. Yeah, religion is a part of it for sure. But essentially, dharma, the root word is dhri, the same root word which is used for dharti, yeah, for dharan. So that underlying principle which upholds, which sustains, that is dharma. We think sustainability is a modern term. Yeah, no, our ancestors have known sustainability. Sustainability is a part of their lifestyle. It has been a part of the civilization, which has ensured that when every other civilization of the past has collapsed, we have survived. It is because of this sustainability principle, which we call dharma. Yeah, and this dharma is not only an abstract thing for the globe per se. We have dharma in individual relationships. I'm a part of the family unit. I have a dharma towards the family. I am the part of a social organization. I have a dharma associated with that social organization, right? What does it mean? It means very simply that as a part of that unit, I have certain kartavyas that I should fulfill in order to ensure the survival, sustenance, thriving, and growth of that unit. Yeah. Now when that happens, I also am mutually a beneficiary of it, of that unit, right? Similarly, if I'm a part of a bigger organization, of a professional organization, my responsibility is to ensure that I work in such a way that I contribute to the growth of that company. Now when I contribute to the growth of the company sees the value in keeping me and they will pay me well or whatever. So it's a mutual relationship, right? This is what is dharma, and that is why when we say dharmo rakshati rakshitah, very simply, very simplistically, this is what it means, that one who ensures, who lives by the dharma of that unit will also take care of that person, because it is a mutually symbiotic relationship. Now extending that to the rashtra, extended that to the administrator, because the sphere of influence keeps on increasing, the kartavya, the way, the kartavya that they have, because now a lot more people are dependent on them. So there we have this entire discourse on Raj Dharma. Yeah, how should an administrator behave? How should an administrator prioritize? Now, what is right for an administrator might not be true for somebody who's a part of a smaller unit with limited sphere of influence. Yeah. So so simply explaining, this is dharma, that principle which allows sustenance, growth, survival, and thriving of the unit that the individuals are part of. That is dharma. Yeah, very, very simply put. And then what is dharma sankat? Mahabharat has dharma yuddha. Everybody has a dharma sankat, ethical dilemma, which we translate into English, right? What is dharma sankat? What happens is, man being a man or woman being a part of the society, we wear multiple hats. I have a dharma towards my family, my kutumba dharma. I have a dharma towards my organization, yeah, my professional dharma. I have a dharma towards my country. I have a dharma to the family that I'm married into. So I have a patni dharma, I have a putri dharma, I have a rashtra dharma, all of that. Lot of times, all these dharmas come into conflict. Yeah, how do you prioritize in that case? That is what a dharma sankat eventually is. So when we look at Arjun, what is his dharma sankat? Should he live by the kutumba dharma? Because if he fights, then he's basically violating the kutumba dharma. He's leading to the fight is going to kill 2 generations of warriors of Bharatvarsha, yeah, including his entire family. And apart from certain people, he actually likes all of them. So that is one. Or should he stick to his Kshatriya dharma, which is important for the sustenance and survival of the larger Samaj that is that is existing there, and also for setting the right precedents, because you can't keep giving in to bullies all the time. Yeah. So how do we choose between this dharma is what Mahabharat actually teaches us. Yeah, or at least it puts forth before us that everybody has a dharma sankat, everybody has to choose, and how do you choose, or rather with what perspective can you make those decisions of your dharma sankat? This is what Mahabharat teaches us. But even for that, first we have to understand dharma. So what I explained to you. Now, generally, we have some do's and don'ts. There are some virtues and vices. Ki hamesha sahi bolo, speak the truth, don't harm anybody. All these are very important. Yeah. And in general, if we don't have to think much, if we just live by these conditions of Samanya Dharma, Nitin Sridhar has a good book on it, that if you live by Samanya Dharma, we are good in general, taking care. But sometimes it's a little more complicated. And I would like to take this extremely beautiful story from Mahabharat. I really like it. And this is from the 17th day of war of Kurukshetra, yeah, where we understand the nuances of dharma. Yeah, why understanding dharma in its nuance, the sukshma roop of dharma has to be understood. So on the 17th day of the war, Karna is in full form, because he has decided today either he is going to live or Arjun is going to live. He's decided. Because till now, everybody else is dead. Shakuni, Dushasan, Bhishma, not Bhishma, but Drona, all of them are dead, right? And Duryodhana also wants to see some action, because he's also quite upset that they have not, because he has sort of understood that eventually they're going to lose. So Karna is very determined, and he is basically giving it back to whoever comes his way. So Bhim, he doesn't manage. In front of Bhim, he has to go away. But when he's faced with Yudhishthir, he manages to injure Yudhishthir very, very badly. And Yudhishthir is in so much pain and he feels so insulted that he goes back to his chowdi, to his tent, to get some medication done. Now, when Bhim and Arjun don't see him, they're worried. So Bhim says, I'll take care of the war. You go and see whether Yudhishthir is fine. So Arjun goes to see. Now, when Yudhishthir sees Arjun, he thinks that Karna has been killed. Because otherwise, why will a warrior like Arjun leave the battlefield and come? So he's like, oh, I'm very happy you've killed Karn. Good job. Shabash beta, something like that. Yeah. And Arjun says, Arey, no, I have not killed Karna or anything. I just came to see how you are doing because we were worried that if everything is fine with you. And Yudhishthir, he's in that pain and delusional at that time. He becomes very angry and he says, see, I know it's not as if you've come to see me, but you are afraid of Karn. That is why you've run away. You never wanted to, you could have never faced Karn. I know that. Instead, if Abhimanyu and Ghatotkacha were alive, they would have been more useful to me than you have been. Yeah. So Yudhishthir goes on this rant. And he says that this Gandiva of yours is no use. Give it to Krishna. He will do a better job of it. Let him fight rather than you fighting. So Arjun becomes very, very angry. And he's like, he doesn't say anything. He just takes out a sword and he runs towards Yudhishthir. Yeah. So Krishna is watching all this. And Krishna is like, hey, hold on. What are you up to? So he runs to Arjun, stops him and he's like, Kya karne ja rahe ho, beta? What are you up to? What's wrong with you? What do you want to do? And Arjun says, I had taken a pledge before that whoever says anything to my Gandiva, I'm going to kill that person. Now, unfortunately, it's my brother who said this. Now, because of the pledge that I have taken before, I will have to now kill him. Okay. So, and of course, he's very upset that he's having to kill his brother. But he's like, but for Kshatriya, word is a word. Pran jaye, par vachan na jaye. So I have to keep my promise. No way I will break it.
That's right.
So Krishna says, what dharma are you talking about? What vachan, what satya are you talking about? Because Arjun is telling him that, oh, this is my dharma. This is satya. I have to keep it. Krishna says, you talk as if you understand dharma, but do you really understand dharma? And the words Krishna uses are very interesting. He says, Balen eva, like a small child, Purvam Vrutam Kurutam. You took some vratam krutam. You took some vrat like a kid before without thinking through what the consequences are. And now morkhyat, like out of stupidity. Literally, that's the word he uses. Morkhyat, now what do you want to do? You want to do adharma. Adharma sayuktam krutam vyapsasi. You want to do something that is so adharmic. And Arjun says, why adharmic? This is what my kartavya is. I have taken a pledge. I have to stay true to it. And Krishna says, let me tell you a story. And in that, Krishna tells a story. And the story is about a rishi called Kaushiki. So Kaushiki Rishi has taken a pledge that he will always speak the truth. Come what may, he will speak the truth. Once he's sitting in his ashram in his forest doing tapasya, and there are some villagers who come running to him. And they say, Maharishiji, there are some dacoits, some daku running after us. They are trying to kill us, running away from them. So if they come to you, please tell them we are not here. And they go and hide behind the ashram. Now the dacoits come. And the dacoits ask the Maharishi that, Arey, did you see these guys? Did you see where these people are? Now the Maharishi is in a fix. Because he has taken a pledge never to lie. And he knows that if he tells the hiding location of these poor villagers, they are going to die. But he says, all my life I have basically said the truth. Now I'm going to die anyways. What's the point? I will stick to my breath. I will always speak the truth. And he tells the dacoits where the villagers are, the villagers get killed. After a few years, the rishi dies and he goes and Yamraj tells him that, okay, send him to Nark. And Kaushiki says, I have never spoken a lie in my entire life. And this is what you're giving me for it. You're giving me Nark for it. This is not fair. And Yamraj says, you led to the death of few innocent people. How is that dharma by any means? How is that satyam by any means? What is satyam? Yada bhuta hitam tat satyam. Only that which leads to the benefit of people, the larger good, protection of innocence. That is dharma and nothing else. That is satya. So just by saying just by saying the truth, the apparent truth, because you think you have decided to say the apparent truth, is not dharma. Then Arjun understands And he says, so Krishna tells Arjun that if you kill Yudhishthir right now, you would be doing you would be doing himsa, because one, he is not in the right frame of mind right now. He is very hurt. He's in a lot of physical pain. He does not have any weapons. He has not challenged you. He has done nothing to you. So if you, even by rules of war, if you kill him right now, this will not be fair. You would be breaking the rules of war and you would be doing hinsa. So think about what is right and wrong. Yeah. Just insisting that you have to be true to your pledge does not make you dharmic. Having the wisdom to say, acha, in this context, what I'm doing, is that going to lead to a sustainable outcome? Is it for the benefit of everybody, or am I actually harming the benefit of the, is it actually, not for the benefit of the larger scheme of things? Yeah. So this is the example Krishna gives. And this is very beautiful, because if you see, extending it to other characters, we have Bhishma, always true to his word. Even when he knew that by his siding with Duryodhan will not agree for a compromise at all. Duryodhan knew that come what may, Bhishma will be with my side. He has taken that vow. So come what may, Bhishma does not break his vow. Yeah. And we know what happened. So Vibhuti, you might said something very important, that everybody has to face the consequence of his or her karma, his or her decision. Here we have Krishna guiding Arjun to even break his pledge if it is for the greater good. And Krishna himself did it. He had said that I'm not going to fight the war. Yeah. But when he saw that Arjun was so dilly-dallying, he's not even able to, he's not really putting up a fight against Bhishma, he jumps off the Rath, the chariot, and he says, you don't kill him, I'll kill him. I don't care for my pledge. It's okay, I will take that path of breaking my pledge if it's going to be for the better good, for the larger good. I'm ready to do that. Yeah. So that is what is a Raj Dharma is, especially when your sphere of influence is so big. Yeah. Now, as I said, comparing it to Bhishma stuck to his vow. Then what is the right thing to do? That is for our wisdom to tell us. Yeah. Okay, maybe I stop. Maybe you say something and then I'll continue.
No. I love.
On this.
This clearly shows how well you are engaged and how well you have understood the whole process. And dharma is one word which definitely confuses people, and you gave the good reason for that, because we are always in conflict. The whole modern concept of work-life balance is all about establishing your dharma in a proper equation, right? The modern language of work-life balance is all about that, isn't it? My responsibilities. I remember for a major public speaking motivational speaker, he had said once that draw a circle and break the circle into 5 components: spiritual, professional, and responsibilities towards family, and your own learning and your professional competence. How are you achieving in all these 5 dimensions? So you suddenly find that people will say that I'm doing very well professionally, I'm very successful there, but my family life sucks, to use the American slang. I'm sacrificing my family. How many CEOs of American companies or sportsmen say that I'm retiring because I need to spend quality time with my family, right? Or pursue my own vocation. This is the example of dharma conflict, dharma sankat jo hota hai logon ko. But the critical element here is that every action has a consequence. Every decision has a consequence. As we say in the language of management, the cost of not doing something and the price of doing something. When you do something, you pay a price. If you don't do anything, it doesn't cost you anything. But there's a consequence to that. So that's what is the interesting part. Dharma, as I came to my easy definition to get out of all the dharma sankat, was that intuitively, instinctively, and intelligently, we all know when we are doing the right thing or not the right thing. I wouldn't call wrong. I will say right thing or not so much the right thing. When we make a compromise, because I know by virtue of living as many years abroad and working in businesses, I've never seen anybody emerge happy with a compromise, because both parties feel they could have got more if they had insisted. Both parties feel I got less, the other got more. It's a very unhappy situation. a compromise, is an unhappy, essentially an unhappy situation. So how do we get to a happy situation? So that way you get is only when you realize that intuitively, instinctively, and intelligently you recognize when you are doing the right thing and the not so right thing. So if you stick to the right,
Vibhuti actually just extended that thing, right?
yeah,
Throughout Gita, Krishna is talking about yogastha buddhi,
yes,
ekatma buddhi, right? What is that ekatma buddhi? He's saying be situated in that, be established in that. Essentially, he's saying make your intuition that strong, so strong that that wisdom will tell you what is the right thing for you to do, right? And then in Gita again, it's very interesting. A lot of times people say, "Arey, why didn't Krishna? Krishna was so powerful. Krishna could have stopped the war. Krishna could have saved Draupadi. Why didn't Krishna do all this?" Yeah. And I always tell them that you see Gita, 700 shlokas, Krishna has guided Arjun to say, okay, this is the right way. Maybe you should do this. You should do this. Arjun has so many questions, and Krishna keeps answering those questions. But eventually, in the 18th chapter, he says, okay, I've told you everything now. Iti guhya taram guhya. All that has to be told. I've told you now. Now, yatha echasi tatha kuru. Now you do what you want to do. Because I can only guide you. I can only be your sathi. Karma is for you to do, and the karma phala is for you to you have to bhogo the phala of the karma that you do, right? Although you may not have the adhikar on that karma, on the karma phala.
I love the way you introduce the colloquial slang. तुमको भोगना पड़ेगा, भोगो. Go ahead. It's so good to know that.
वो मेरा आ जाता है कभी कभी. My Hindi,
That's
Gujarati,
perfectly
Marathi all
fine.
comes.
That's funny. When we have a chance to laugh, let's laugh about it. Yes, go ahead.
So basically, you have to face the consequences, good, bad, whatever. Yeah, and good, bad also comes from the intention that you're coming with.
Right.
So eventually, as you said, one of the biggest lesson of Mahabharat is that karma reigns supreme. Come what may, there is no escaping the karma. Yeah, and right now, many times we see people saying that, oh, it was whatever happened to Karna was very unfair, whatever happened to this person was very unfair, and stuff like that. A lot of these commentaries or opinions are based because people have not read the Mahabharata. When you read the Mahabharata and not base your opinions on the retellings and novels and fiction written around it, you will see that there has been no unfairness with anybody. In general, life has been unfair to everybody. Life has been difficult to everybody. But when it comes to the eventual outcome, actually there has not been any unfairness or fairness or anything like that. It's very simple. You've done something, you will face the consequence of it. If you have lived by dharma, dharma will protect you. If you've not lived by dharma, don't expect that eventually everybody will do dharmic stuff to you. That's not how it's going to work. And this is very, very clear, very, very obvious and evident in Mahabharata. And even in the chapters that where I've written more about the characters of Duryodhan, Karna and all that, I think you might have already noticed that it comes out because, I'm not putting my opinion. I've just put out what Vyasji has said about those characters.
Right.
So karma is supreme. Dharma sankat is for everybody. But to solve those dharma sankat, we have to understand dharma, which comes to Shravan Manan Nidhi Dhyasam, through understanding our itihas and seeing and learning from our ancestors.
Let's talk about, in my opinion, a very significant event in the entire Mahabharat saga. And that is related to Yudhishthir gambling or falling into the trap, temptation, insinuation, or greed of getting into gambling. It's a very important saga. We know there is an element of dharma involved. There is an element of politics involved. There is an element of everything involved in this entire process, right? And you have narrated it very well. The story is so important for us to understand that Draupadi, when she's being asked to come back, and perform her part of the failed betting that Yudhishthir did, she said Yudhishthir was never good in gambling, right? Why did he fall into that trap? This is a thing that we all fall into. Even relevance of that is so important that I'm totally aghast. Having gone to Vegas, Atlantic City, we were famous gambling. Gambling has never done anyone any good.
Yep.
The one who wins a blackjack at some point, $1,000 or 1,000 rupees, has probably spent already $10,000 or 10,000 rupees to win that 1,000. but he celebrates as if that is his jackpot, right? So it is a very interesting mind play that goes in gambling. How did such a wise man, such a clever man, such a dharmic man fall into the temptation of gambling? What was he trying to prove?
Um, so when Vidur comes to Yudhishthir and tells him that Dhritarashtra has called you for this gambling youth krida, already Yudhishthir is not happy. He's like, this youth always leads to fights in the family. It's not a good idea. And Vidur says, you can reject it if you want. But Yudhishthir is like, but if Dhritarashtra wants it, how do I reject it? Yeah. So keeping his respect, I will come. He comes to the palace in that hall where the game is being played. Even there, he says that, oh, I don't think it's a good idea. Gambling is not really about any skill or anything. It's not a good idea to play. But Shakuni knows Yudhishthir. Yeah, Shakuni knows that if I keep challenging and Dhritarashtra doesn't say anything, Yudhishthir will play. So he says, okay, so don't you want to play? Is that what you're saying? If you don't want to play, fine. And Yudhishthir is like, no, okay, let's play. Even when Duryodhan says that Shakuni will play my dice, even there Yudhishthir is hesitant. Even there he is not happy. But nobody else says anything in his favor. Yeah. So then he's like, okay, maybe let's see what destiny has in store here. Because apparently everybody else seems to think this is the right thing to do. Yeah. So he was reverential towards the others in the family, reverential because they were at the end of the day his kutumba, right? So he plays. Now when he plays and everything, the entire, he staked himself, he staked his brother, all of that. And then Shakuni says, so now what? What are you going to stake now? And Yudhishthir says, I don't have anything to stake. It's all gone. I have nothing now. Yeah. And Shakuni says, no, you have. Draupadim Panaswa. You still have something which is not lost. Ajitam, Panaswa Draupadim. She's not won yet. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe you will win Panaswa Draupadi and win back everything that you have lost. Yeah. Now you see, at that point, he's lost everything. He's lost his kingdom. Everything has gone. Can we imagine the mindset of that person? It's like a person who's drowning. He's ready to hold on to a straw, thinking that that straw will stop him. Yeah. So even a wise man in a situation like this does falter. And Yudhishthir faltered and he staked Draupadi. And we know what followed. Yeah. Now, whatever followed was extremely unjustified to Draupadi. It was probably the nadir, the lowest point of the entire Kuru family, so to say, that their own Bahu was dragged into the court and people tried to disrobe her. Now, again, there it was Karna, so nobody else has ever called Draupadi prostitute. Karna is the only one who calls her prostitute. The idea of disrobing Draupadi is also Karna's. He is the one who says, Vasansi upahara, take away her clothes. Vasansi's clothes. So he tells Dushasan, you take away her clothes because she's a dasi now and she's anyways a bandhiki. She's a prostitute who marries five men. So she's married to 5 men. She's a prostitute. So if you get her ekambardhara, because she's wearing that one cloth, she's in her periods and she's wearing that one cloth. He says even if she's wearing one cloth or vivastra or she's not wearing anything, doesn't matter. She's a bandhiki. Yeah, this is what Karna says, the icon of whatever, anyways, without getting into the politics of it. So he says, so this was the lowest point the Kuru family could reach and nobody says anything. Now, just taking a step back, what would have happened if Draupadi was not staked? Now, Yudhishthir did not do this thinking it will save him or anything. But just see how the destiny sometimes plays out. Yeah, if Draupadi was not staked, was it that she would not be a dasi? Because all the 5 brothers have become dasas, have become slaves, and nobody is trying to protect them or save them or anything, right? They have lost everything and they have become das and they have accepted it. What would have been Draupadi's status? Would she not be a dasi being married to this 5 das? She would still be a dasi, right? Was there a chance for her to get out of it? No chance, no sympathy, nothing. But when this thing happened by a stroke of luck, in fact, when Draupadi is saying, no, I won't come, Yudhishthir sends some messenger that he knows to tell her that you come crying. You come crying to the court. Maybe people will listen to you and they'll be sympathetic. He also doesn't know that Karna, Dushasan, Duryodhan will fall to this extent. Yeah. But anyways, so now when Draupadi comes and this whole thing plays out in the court, and she's asking them that Jitam va ajitam, am I one or am I not one? First you tell me what is dharma. And everybody's so embarrassed, and there are these omens that the destruction of Kuru family is going to happen. So Dhritarashtra gives in eventually when it reaches that point. So if Draupadi would not have come till then, no Mahabharat, nothing would have happened. Those guys would just be das. And they would have had to accept it because no sympathy, right? Everybody would have said, oh, you staked and you lost. What to do? What can anybody do? So in that sense, Draupadi became a savior for all of them. Although, if you look at it personally, from her pride, her self-respect, it was a huge deal. It was a huge, how do I say, it was really unfortunate and unjust on her. Yeah. But this incident is like a turning point. Had this not happened, the Pandavas would have been dasas forever. And Duryodhan would have had his way. Can't hear you. I think you're on mute, Vibhuti.
I'm on the mute. So sorry.
Yeah.
So the point which I was trying to make, you brought in a very good point. Draupadi, Duryodhan, and Karn, all three of them. And you have contested that actually. You have said that Draupadi never said that Duryodhan was was a blind.
Yeah.
It was a blind man's son. So what? How could he see about falling in the palace? Right. The second part is how Karna was humiliated, and both of them set out to settle the scores with Pandav because both of them were insulted by Draupadi when Draupadi called Karna a Shudra or lower caste guy or Duryodhan the blind man's child. Both of them. That is the even the famous Mahabharat narrative of films and movies. That's what we are told, and that's what I'm bringing back to the top of the agenda. Second item that I talked about, that we need to study our texts so that we can separate the fact with fiction. So share the facts with us and the audience.
Absolutely.
As you have.
So Draupadi never says Andhe ka putra andha. This is not present in any manuscript of Mahabharata. This is somebody's brainchild to make it more masala or whatever, eventually blame it on her because she insulted, so fine, na? It was okay if she was also insulted. But she never says that. In fact, the character of Draupadi is something else. She's called Agni. She comes from Agni, right? But that Agni has been changed to make her look like somebody who's always angry, always wanting revenge. No. That Agni is because she's so tejasvi, she's so radiant. And that I've tried to bring that out. Her character per Vyas's Mahabharat in the chapter The Marriage That Died. Yeah. So this woman is not somebody who can make a fleeting comment like this. She's not that way. Yeah. So, and she hasn't said it. This is just some additional. So this is one of the myths about Draupadi, which people need to know. She never said it. One. So Andhe ka putra andha is gone. Even for Karn. Now here comes the more interesting part. We have been made to believe that Karn was somehow an oppressed caste. He was, and then turn it around. Vaise to Mahabharata is mythology, not true. But when it suits a narrative, turn the thing around and say, oh, Karn was discriminated. Hindus have always been casteist. Hindus have, as a society, it is always casteist. Look at Karn. Yeah. So they play this with us. But anyway, so Karn is a Suta Putra. What is a Suta? Who are Suta? Sutas are a mixed jati of Brahman mother and Kshatriya father. Both, even if we have to consider hierarchy, on the top notch. He used to do Ved part. It is in fact after his Ved part and Surya Upasana and all of that he used to give dan. Yeah. So one, he does not come from any lower discriminated caste or anything like that. And we can say that with a lot more confidence because there are many other sutas in Mahabharata. The Ugrashrava, Rishi Ugrashrava Sauti, who has actually, the Mahabharata that we know comes from his rendition, Rishi Ugrashrava Sauti. As the name goes, he is a suta. Sudeshana. So Sudeshana is Uttara's mother. Uttara is the girl who's married to Abhimanyu, the daughter of Virat. Sudeshana is a Suta. Her brother is the most powerful commander in Virat's Matsya Kingdom's forces, Kichak, who tried to violate Draupadi. He is a Suta. Kaikai kingdom of that time. Lot of them are Sutas. So Sutas were warriors. Sutas were charioteers. Now people think of charioteers as a driver hai. Nahi yaar. अगर ऐसा होता तो Krishna wouldn't have agreed to become a Sarthi, na? Sarthi, some of the best, the closest friends, Sanjay, who's forever with Dhritarashtra, he's a Sarthi. Sarthis were not just uh, ones who were driving for the heck of it. They were people who were guiding. They were people responsible for the warrior's life. Yeah, very brave people. And so they were storytellers. They were kathavachaks. They were people who would keep history. They were people who would narrate history. They were people who were warriors, kings, and then of course, as I said, yeah, even charioteers. So these people were Suta. So there has not been any caste discrimination against Karna. One. There is only once when there is a sort of an insult, if we might say, when Karna gate crashes into that performance ceremony when the princes are back from Dronacharya's palace, from Dronacharya's ashram, and they are performing, and this guy comes and says, "Oh no, Arjuna is not great. I am great." Array, first the question to be asked is, how is he even coming and saying that Arjuna in Saha Dvandva Michhami? It is not a battlefield, right? Why does he want to do a Dvandva with Arjun? He wants to showcase his talent. He did. Enough, na? Why fight when there is actually no fight? It is a performance ceremony. Yeah. And acha, now taking it back, Dronacharya. So another thing told to us is that Dronacharya. Sorry. So just completing that point. So at that point, Bhim says that you are a charioteer. You go and take the reins in your hands. But that is the only time because this guy has been insulting and challenging Arjun. So Bhim is his impulsive person. He says it. Yeah. But when Duryodhan says, "Oh, I'll make him the prince of Anga because if you want that only a prince can challenge, then I'll make him a prince." Nobody says anything. If it was such a caste society, people would have said, "Na, Are, how are you making him the prince? We don't accept him the prince." Nobody says that. He's become the king of Anga. From that day onwards, he's in the palace every single day, and nobody has raised any objection at his presence. People have told that he's very reckless and all, but that is because of his behavior, not because of where caste he comes from. Yeah. Second, Dronacharya. So we are made to believe that Dronacharya said, "I will not teach you because you are a Suta." Yeah, assuming that Suta is lower caste. But that is also not true. It's very clearly given that he is a student of Dronacharya. It comes in Adi Parva in every manuscript. He is a student of Dronacharya. But what does the Karna do? What is given to us? Arjunen saha sadaiva spardhishyati. Spardhishyati. He's always fighting. He's always competing with Arjun. Arjun doesn't care. Arjun is even younger. Arjun doesn't care. But he's always fighting. And at one point, he goes to Dronacharya and says, "I want the Brahmastra. I want to learn the Brahmastra." There, Dronacharya says, "Arey, I can't teach you the Brahmastra. You are not fit to learn the Brahmastra." And then Arjun says, Karna says, "Fine, I'll learn from somebody else." And he goes to Parshuram, and we know the story. Yeah. So this whole narrative that they are insulted and hence they give it back to Draupadi is nothing but, pardon my French, bullshit. Created as somebody's imagination, and we've started thinking it's true because every reimagination, every story talks only of that only. Yeah, using Kant somehow as this icon of injustice and trying to do justice to him and stuff like that.
This is very important. You brought out exactly the thought process that I narrate with my friends in India about the driver being Sarathi. And it's a very interesting small incident that after a lunch in some place, my friend called for his driver. And he was literally abusing him, calling him by name, etc., etc. Why did you get late? So I said to him that he did not get late by choice. Why should you abuse him? And why you call him driver? Because he is the one who is your Sarathi, actually. This has happened 4 years ago. I said, he's your Sarathi. In Bombay or Delhi, how would you ever reach your destination if you do not have a good Sarathi who can navigate, whether with GPS system or otherwise? That's absolutely satik, I would put it that way. The satik explanation that we have to respect people on this. The two elements before we close for today's conversation. I'm going to request you for two thoughts. I don't want to say my thoughts on it because my thoughts are known. I want to hear from you. One of the constant attack on Hindus globally.
Your voice is breaking.
Is it breaking now still? Is it okay? I thought.
Now it's fine.
All right. What I was talking about is that the two constant attack that happens on Hindus is the total misunderstanding, lack of understanding, or not right understanding of the word called Hindutva. And the second one is the caste. During Mahabharat time, there was no caste, but you can see the modern narrative begins to put, the questions of, caste considerations in India, which, in my opinion, is rubbish. I have an interpretation of caste, which I'll talk later. Your interpretation of that.
Okay. So I wouldn't say, I mean, caste as a word, of course, wasn't there because caste is not even an Indian word, right? We know casta comes from Portuguese. Now, pretty much everybody knows that. But there was Varna and Jati, for sure, yeah. But it was not as if nobody was intermingling with anybody. In fact, we have so many mixed jatis, so many, and they have different names for all of them, and all of them had a profession assigned to those. Yeah, so people were allowed to. I mean, at least if people mingled, they were not thrown out or anything. There was certain job assigned to them so that they could do their living. Yeah, and what were the kinds of jobs? So you see, what Krishna says is that your varna is your svabhava based, your guna karma vibhaga. That is what your varna is. Now, when at one point in time, probably varna and jati were the same, then they started intermingling. And hence, varna and jati were then separate. Just by a jati, just by birth, one could not determine what the varna is. Now, this thinking has been, you see this happening in Mahabharat itself. In fact, Yudhishthir has been asked twice this question. One in the Nahush Prashna episode, and then in the Yaksha Prashna episode. Yudhishthir is asked that who is a Brahmin? And he says, as in what makes a Brahmin? And he says, anybody who has all these gun, kshama, dama, tapa, all of that, all these gun, whoever shows that, he's a Brahmin. So then Nahush says, oh, but this can be shown by anybody. Doesn't have to be only somebody who's born, because these guns can be in any person. So are you saying that that person can be Brahmin? Yudhishthir very categorically says, anybody who shows these gun, does this kind of action, is a Brahmin. And a person born in the Brahman jati, if he does not show this gun, if he doesn't show this svabhav, he is not a Brahmin. Yeah. But then Nahush asks, then how do we understand? Now, what is the meaning of being born in a jati, being born in a Brahmin family? What does it mean? So Yudhishthir very categorically says that there has been so much intermingling happening that now, just by birth, it is impossible to figure out what the varna or anything of anybody is. So now the bottom line of assigning varna is only through action, only through karma. The same question is asked in Yaksha Prashna, that how does one become a Brahmin? Is it through studying, through this, through that? How does one become a Brahmin? And he says, no, not by any of this, only through karma. Exactly. Only through karma can one become a Brahmin, and nowhere else. Yeah. So this discussion we see going on as well. Now, of course, when it comes to intermingling, we have so many examples. We know that Satyavati, she's a nishad, a fisherwoman, right? And Shantanu, of course, then there is some backstory about, how she was actually a Kshatriya and all that. But when Shantanu sees Satyavati and wants to marry her, and everybody wants them, and and he's trying to get her to marry, at that time, Shantanu is going after her thinking she's a fisherwoman only. And nobody had a problem, right? Nobody said you can't marry a fisherwoman. And this fisherwoman had a son outside of marriage, who's Vedvyas ji. Vedvyas ji, who is actually in today's parlance a bastard child, he actually is the real biological blood relation of Kauravas and Pandavas, right? They are his biological children, so to say. And nobody is calling them any name. Nobody is saying, "Arey, where is he coming from?" or nothing like that. Now, actually coming to how the society was, there was actually no concept of a bastard child at all at that time, because they had said there are 8 different types of marriages. Yeah, 8 different types of communions that could happen. And in that, they basically covered anyway, if 2 people have got together, their son, daughter, whoever is acceptable. Yeah. Similarly, and I have that chapter, the 8 kinds of marriages. Yes. Similarly, we also know that if a lady had a son outside of marriage, then the person she marries to, he can actually take this son as their own. This is what actually Krishna tells Karna. that how are you Kaunteya, because you are born to her before her marriage, but she was married to Pandu, so eventually you are also Pandu's son. Yeah, of course. Kunti was very scared at that point because she was also not living with her own parents. She was a foster daughter. She was living in her father's friend's house. So, anyways, but the society per se was a lot more accommodating of many of these things, which we are told that we were rigid. This is, always casteist, always communal, blah, 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 all of that. No, I actually think we were a lot more accommodating of different kinds of things, even though in Dharma Shastra it seems more rigid. I think rigidity might have happened later on, but we don't see that in the Mahabharat time, at least.
There's a very important question that has come, and I wanted to ask you. The question is from Cool Dude 19901, and he's asking Ami ji Pranam regarding Mahabharat. एक narrative चलता है by leftists regarding character assassination of Draupadi for marrying 5 males. Kindly enlighten. How did that happen?
So it's very interesting that the leftists do her character assassination now, what Karna did in Mahabharat, but nobody else did. Draupadi, in our Shastra, she's amongst the 5 satis, 5 Mahan ladies. She's called a sati. Yeah, even though she was married to 5 men. Mm-hmm. And how does this whole thing happen? It's very interesting. So when Arjun does that thing, he wins Draupadi, and Draupadi comes with him. Bhim and Arjun get Draupadi, and Kunti says whatever, Samitya Samahara, whatever, all of you share or whatever, all that happens, right? We know that. Now the question is what to do. Who should marry her first? Yeah, because Yudhishthir was the eldest, so in a way he could have married her first, but Arjun won her, so he also had right on her. Okay, now at that point they're discussing what to do. Now Draupadi is sitting, the 5 brothers are sitting around her. Yeah, Draupadi is looking at them, they are looking at Draupadi. So it's a very vivid scene what is written by Vyasji. And Yudhishthir is looking at everybody. Yudhishthir sees everybody, and he sees that Indriya, the word uses Pramethya Indriya Grama. So their bodies are agitated. They are also attracted to Draupadi. Yeah. So when everybody is so attracted to Draupadi, Yudhishthir basically says, okay, fine, she will be the wife of all of us. Sarvesham Bharya Bhavishyati. She will be the wife to all of us. Now, Drupad doesn't just immediately agree. Yeah. Draupadi is fine. Draupadi does not complain, nothing. Draupadi is perfectly okay with this decision. But Drupad Drupad is like, how can this happen? Yeah. We have never seen a woman have more than one husband. The other way is possible, but this is not, a woman never has so many husbands, so she will fall into pap. So don't do this. And Yudhishthir says, actually, it's not correct, because there are instances in the past, in our Shastras, where we have examples of one woman marrying multiple men, especially multiple brothers. Yeah. So while it is not prevalent, it is not prohibited by the Shastras. Yeah. This is the explanation he gives. And when he gives this explanation, and Vyasji also approves of this marriage, and he brings in this story of how they were all 5 Indras, and then Draupadi is the Lakshmi, and another story of how Draupadi said 5 times to Shiva. So all those other stories are there, but for now I will ignore that. This was a very pragmatic decision taken by Yudhishthir, and Draupadi had no problems with it. And after that, the society did not have a problem with it. Nobody said why. In Mahabharata, there are discourses after discourses, but nobody ever says, why is Draupadi married to 5 men? Oh my God, her character is bad. They are not saying, but the leftists are saying. Who is closed-minded? Right? Who is closed-minded? She doesn't think she's misogynist. In fact, the stature that Draupadi has is, I'll tell you with this one small thing which Arjun says. So eventually when Krishna dies and Arjun has gone to do the final rites of all the Yadavs and everything, Vasudev, who's Krishna's father, is still alive. And Arjun and Vasudev are talking. And Arjun says that now that Krishna has died, I think it's time for us also to leave. Because Krishna, we 5 Pandavas and Draupadi, we are like one Atma in different bodies. Now, Pandavas are married to so many other wives. But when he says we are one Atma into different bodies, he brings out only Draupadi. Yudhishthir, once in the forest, he's talking to some rishi and he says, Draupadi is a kind of a wife a man wants to lead a fulfilling life. She is that kind of a spouse. That is the prestige and stature of Draupadi in Mahabharata. So the left is doing character assassination. The issue is with their view, with their worldview and their narrative, not with our text.
Thank you, Amiji. That is a wonderful explanation and a narrative of the fact, not myth, right? So this is what what is important for us to know. I will come to the questions later on, but request to viewers is to subscribe, like, share this channel, Jaipur Dialogue USA, and ask questions. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a dialogue. This is the beauty of our cultural heritage. So Poonam Abhiji is asking, Vibhuti does 8 types of marriage and regulation to decide paternity of a child shows society understood complexity of human nature and society. What do you say, Amiji?
Absolutely, Poonamji. You are bang on with that, right? A child has come into the world. A child should be taken care of like anybody else. Doesn't matter how he came into this world. And this was very well understood by our ancestors. Hence, they said, okay, Pishach wedding is not the right kind where the girl has been deceived. Okay, it is not the right kind and should be avoided by any means. But if it has happened, then the child still gets the father's name. There is no bastardization here. Yeah. So it actually was a lot more accommodating, as I've said, and our rishis understood the complexity of human nature and things that happen in the society. So you are bang on there. I have nothing else to say. Fully with you.
That's wonderful. Listen, the time is coming to a close, and I have one observation to make towards the end, because apart from Mahabharat Unravelled, it has remarkable relevance to modern times. And one of the relevance that I found, because you were earlier talking about the entire Yaksha Prashna question, and I would urge every viewer, every reader of the book who wants to be consultant, coach, and mentor to have that questionnaire, study it. Just don't read it. So it is on the page 218 and 219 of the book. I told you I read the book. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to have the conversation. In addition to the fact that I consider myself, what you call, I proudly say, I have above knowledge, above average awareness about our culture, belief, and everything else. But like 2 weeks ago, I did talk to one lady called Miss Rai, Neera Rai, who wrote the book on Amazing Ayodhya. Today, I'm talking to another lovely young lady, Ami Ganatra, about Mahabharata. I'm very enthused that people are coming out. So people are coming out and speaking, researching, spending time to figure out, giving up their beautiful careers to pursue a path which is very great. So congratulations and great. I think everybody should applaud you for that. But I would want you to comment on those Q&Is between Yaksha Prashna that goes on. That is so remarkable. As a practitioner of coaching, I'm a coach. I'm a professional coach. I learned a lot about those. It's not taught to us. So share that in the next 2 minutes, and then we will say Happy Independence Day once again.
Okay, so Yaksha Prashna is actually quite big. So
yes.
Definitely everybody should read it. But there are a couple of things. So what is Yaksha Prashna all about? Yaksha Prashna is about how do you develop a perspective to life? Yeah, the questions are about, who is the friend of a householder? Who is a friend of a traveler? What is the biggest ashcharya? What is the right path? And stuff like that. So I will speak about what is the right path. I'll take that one question. And also because it links back to the itihas and this discussion we've had. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, kaha pantha? That is the question. Kaha pantha? What is the right path? The Yaksha asks Yudhishthir, and Yudhishthir says that tarko apratishta. There are many different logics, rationales, all of that in the world. Shrutayaha vibhinnaha. Even Shruti Vakyas can sometimes be contradictory. Rishayaha mata pramanam anekaha. There are many rishis. Even rishis will have different opinion. Then which is the right way to go? And so Yudhishthir says, Mahajana yena gataha sa pantha. The path which has been taken by great people, people you respect and look up to, that is the way to go. So not just blindly following do's and don'ts, not just blindly following कि भाई book में ऐसा लिखा है. We anyways don't have this one book funda, yeah.
Right.
But learn by the lived experiences, learn through case studies, learn from others, and then decide your path ahead. People have gone that route. You might not be alone. So learn from them, and that actual practical learning is what even the Itihas gives us, or what Mahabharat gives us.
Right.
So that's my 2-minute answer. The one question which I really like in this.
There is one more question that has come about from which is asking. Can you put the question up here? That question is yes, Chaitanya, YSK Chaitanya. MEG, many of the loopholes in modern narrative of Mahabharata are covered in Bharat Yuddham, Indonesian version. Would you like to read that also? Have you read it? I have not.
So, I haven't. So definitely we'll check out. Why not?
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely check out.
That's very good.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you, all the viewers. If you have any questions, please come back. We have a few minutes. Otherwise, I will say, Amiji, thank you very much. And, one of the persons had asked, is Ami your real name?
Yes, Ami is my real name, and Ami is a Gujarati word. So Ami means Amrit. It doesn't come from Sanskrit, but so in Sanskrit, Ami means more like they ask you. It's a plural thing. But in Awadhi, there is a word called Amiya, which means the same thing, yes, like Amrit. Yeah. Right. So in Gujarati, Ami means Amrit. It's a Gujarati word. Any Ami you see will be a Gujarati.
Okay. Problem resolved. So thank you very much for being with us, and thank you very much, viewers. Please like, subscribe, and share the JD USA. It's an extension of Jaipur Dialogue that you are familiar with. We have created this particular platform to spread the narrative, rewrite our narrative. Subscribe to our channel. Support us. Thank you very much, Amiji. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram.